Okay, guys, this is Gilded Age Politics, and this is what we're going to be covering in class on Wednesday and Thursday. So this is 2 days worth of your notes here, and you might have to pause as we go along because I'm going to go kind of quickly for y'all. Most of this stuff is on the slides. Poor farmers usually are the brunt of a bad economy, and this period of time is no different. They were perpetually in debt. The currency, there was not a lot of currency in circulation, and their product was not getting the prices that they wanted. They're going to suffer from some droughts, from some torrential rains. The government was not friendly to them, gouged by the trust, and then one of their main enemies is going to be the railroads. They do not have a representation in Congress. So basically they're going to try and form some organizations, and one of them is, well, the very first one is the Grange. It starts out as kind of a social affair, square dances, meeting in large barns, which were called granges, and then it's ultimately going to develop into these cooperatives, still in existence today. Farm equipment is very, very expensive, so you might have 3, 4, 5, or even more families investing in equipment, setting up their own banks, setting up their own insurance. You may have heard of Farmers Insurance. We are farmers. Dum, 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 dum. Granger laws are going to be passed, and they are going to be passed at the state level. So especially railroads, because railroads were charging outrageous fees for picking up and transporting grain for farmers. Bum, ba-dum, bum, 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 bum. After the Grange, or along with the Grange, Farmers Alliance is going to be a national organization, and that is going to lead to the creation of the Populist Party in the 1880s and a demand for more money in the system, adding silver to the gold. One of the first political parties is called the Greenback Party, and they are going to be successful in that 14 members are going to be elected to the House of Representatives. They are going to run a candidate for president, and James B. Weaver will be a third-party candidate for president, and this organization is going to be getting more and more members as time goes on. So the Greenback Party will evolve into the Populist Party, and it is going to be supported by men and women with the Farmers Alliance. And Mary E. Lease, this is that beautiful young lady down here. She says Kansas should raise less corn and more hell. So women are getting involved in this political process. You can see here, this is the People's Party, the Populist Party. And you've got Socialists, the Grange, Knights of Labor, Prohibition, Farmers Alliance. So this is piecemealed together into this party, the People's Party. And you can see this is kind of against them because in the basket itself it says a platform of lunacy, because they asked for things like an 8-hour workday. This is more a pro-Grange. You can see the people over here working hard, providing wheat and corn and bacon and beef, and they're over here in the farming community, and they are being milked by the Wall Street cats, and you can see the factory in the background over here in New York City. The election of 1892 comes along, and you have Grover Cleveland running. The Republicans are running Benjamin Harrison, who had been the president elected in 1888. And of course, the Populist with General James B. Weaver. And the delegates from these different organizations, Farmers Alliance, Knights of Labor, and so forth, are meeting in Omaha, Nebraska, and they come up with important things. I'm sorry on that. Is silver, income tax, government ownership of railroads, nationalize the railroads, telephone, and telegraph companies, an initiative referendum and recall political reforms, which we're going to be talking about, postal savings banks giving land grants only to settlers and not to corporate people, direct election of senators, and an 8-hour workday. So you can see many of these things are things that will come to pass, but in 1892, this was considered very, very radical. Once again, the tariff is going to be one of the main issues, and Cleveland is going to beat Harrison 277 to 145. A lot of that had to do with the economy. We're going back into a recession, but the Populists get over 1 million votes and 22 electoral votes, and this is going to shake up both the Republican and the Democratic Party. So this is what it looks like, and you can see the states in green here are the states that the Populist Party took. Cleveland is going to take mostly the South. He is a Democrat, and Harrison is taking some of those states in the far north and Massachusetts, no, that's Pennsylvania and New England. So this is Grover Cleveland. Now, Grover Cleveland, this is his second term. He's our only president to serve consecutive terms. If you look at the ranking here, Grover is ranked number 23. So these are just some facts on Grover Cleveland. Remember, we're going to have a president's test. You are going to be responsible for up to president number 25 next week. So he is 22 and 24. In between, we have Benjamin Harrison. These are some facts about Grover Cleveland. He was a portly fellow, and they nicknamed him Uncle Jumbo. That can be one of your facts. He was a big guy, weighed 250 pounds, and he's our only president to serve non-consecutive terms. He's our only president to have executed someone. He had been a sheriff in Buffalo, New York, and he was accused of having an illegitimate child. He's our only president to be married in the White House, and he married his ward when she was 21 years old. In between, there was Benjamin Harrison, and Benjamin Harrison was a Republican, and he is the last president with a grandson of William Henry Harrison, who was, of course, if you remember, only president for a month. He lost the popular vote, but won the electoral vote, and was nicknamed the White House Iceberg because he was a very cold man. He is the first billion-dollar government in spending, and he lost his wife and did not campaign for re-election. So high tariff and tight money, that was kind of the theme of this time period. Grover Cleveland is going to be over the Panic of 1893, which of course is blamed on Harrison. We have another stock market crash. This is when J.P. Morgan jumps in with investors and basically saves the United States. Some of these long-term causes: overbuilding of the railroads, heavy loans to farmers, and not enough money in supply. Remember, we only printed as much money as we had gold. There were also labor strikes and this agricultural depression that we have been talking about. Morgan and other bankers get together and they lend the government $65 million in gold. This is a temporary relief for the government. However, it did restore confidence. Because of unemployment, a famous general named General Coxey from Ohio, he is going to start the very first March on Washington. And he is demanding an increase in the money supply. They want silver added to the money supply. So this is called Coxey's Army, and they were mostly unemployed people. And as he is marching towards Washington, more and more people are going to join this march. When they get there, they're arrested. But it does get the attention of the Washington, D.C. politicians. Here you have a prominent businessman that has organized this first March on Washington, and all these people join in. So it did get their attention. Now we have the election of 1896. You've got William McKinley, a Republican, and he is going to run the very first modern campaign with the very first modern campaign manager. And what that really means is they are going to gather lots and lots of money from big business. They want to maintain the gold standard because that is good for the wealthy people. The more money in supply, farmers are able to pay their loans off, and money is worth less. So they, not worthless, but worth less. Therefore, it's better for the people that owe money. The candidate for on the Democrat side is a guy named William Jennings Bryan, and he is looking at this populist platform, and he told the Democrats, listen, we do not need to split this. Let's adopt this platform. And that is exactly what the... So William Jennings Bryan makes a very famous speech. Put a little star by this, circle this. Know the Cross of Gold speech. And he is talking about how the country has been destroyed. Burn down your cities and leave our farms, and your cities will spring up again as if by magic, but destroy our farms and the grass will grow in the streets of every city in the country. So he's appealing to the farmers. His famous line, you shall not press down upon the brow of labor this crown of thorns. You shall not crucify mankind upon a cross of gold. And this is famously known as the Cross of Gold speech. We see William Jennings Bryan waving his arms and giving this speech over and over and over to great ovation. So the Democratic platform adopts this unlimited coinage of silver, and silver is going to add to the money supply, and that will be good for the Populist Party. And so silver is the main issue, and Hanna is going to travel around the country, and he is going to give this speech over and over again. What does McKinley do? He sits on the front porch. Remember, this is his modern campaign. They're going to call this the front porch campaign. And he never says a word that is not orchestrated by his modern campaign manager, Mark Hanna. This is the election. You got William Jennings Bryan as the Democratic candidate versus William McKinley as the Republican candidate. William Jennings Bryan traveling the country, roaring his speeches. He's calling this the bimetallic movement, 2 metals, gold and silver. The Populists endorsed Bryan. It's called The Train versus The Porch. This is his campaign tour. You can see he goes about 330 miles the first trip, almost 4,000 miles the second trip. He's traveling as far as into Missouri and Nebraska, through Iowa, Chicago. His third trip, he gets a little bit further south into Tennessee and into North and South Carolina. Again, through the Midwest again, he travels 12,837 miles. Each time he's stopping, he's making this cross of gold speech. And remember, newspapers have this speech printed, and it was a very popular speech, but it's getting old. Here we see Mark Hanna on the right-hand side, and he is manipulating McKinley's campaign, and there's McKinley and his family on the front porch. The press comes to him. So what we got to think about? Mark Hanna actually wrote the book on the keys to political victory, and this still holds true today. What is the most important thing for a political victory, for a political campaign? If you said money, you were right. You've got to have money to run a campaign, especially today where they're buying commercials and they're giving rallies and you're paying workers. So money is the number one thing. What else do you need? That's right. Make people afraid to vote for the other guy. That was one of the key things Trump did, and then it was one of the key things that Biden did. People were afraid. They go for the candidate that they are least fearful of, fearful of their the way they do business, the way they the programs that they're talking about. Mark Hanna is going to run a fear campaign with labor. He is going to convince them that if they vote for Bryan, that factories will shut down, that they will lose jobs, that banks will close down. And he is going to do that with various means, including planting things in the paper, getting to the unions, and he is going to be successful in turning labor. So this is what he is proposing. He's telling them, yeah, you've got all this silver, but now we have no banks and the factories are going to shut down and you will have no jobs. So it's an easy choice. $1 versus a dime. During this time period, a guy named Horatio Alger is writing books about rising up from rags to riches, and he calls those the Ragged Dick books. So know this, know Mark Hanna, the first modern campaign manager. McKinley never campaigns. It's a front porch campaign. The reporters come to him. Hanna gets lots and lots of money, plants stories in newspapers, gets publicity from McKinley, and he is going to get McKinley elected. McKinley will win in the Northeast. Bryan wins the South and West. Where's the population? McKinley's got it. And it's going to be the most significant election since Lincoln. Farmers are no longer the majority. They can't get somebody elected. Republicans are going to dominate national politics until Wilson in the 1912 election, and fewer people vote. This is the election of 1896. You can see how it is divided, the red and the blue here. And William Jennings Bryan, we're going to see him again. He's going to run for president 2 more times. He talked the talk but couldn't walk the walk. He could not get the job done. So William McKinley will become the last president in the Gilded Age. And I'm going to break this up, you guys. We'll do day 2 tomorrow.